Resco webinar series about new features in our mobile CRM product is just about to commence. My name is Juraj Mojik. I'm a developer here at Resco, and you definitely recognize my voice from the other webinars. Today I will go through the features of Mobile CRM version 9.2, but as with other webinars, you all are muted at the moment, and if you have any questions to what you will see, please write them into the GoToWebinar window, and I will answer them probably at the end or maybe during the meantime when we have some pause or the application will be synchronizing for a long time. One other thing, the webinar is being recorded and the recording will be made available on YouTube shortly afterwards, so you will be able to see it then. Also, there you will have some links to some of the examples that I will show you, and also these files will be sent to you via email after the webinar. I think that's it, so let me start and talk about Resco Mobile CRM 9.2, which is our autumn release. Autumn 2016, it was released actually in October on the 12th, and it contains more than 40 interesting new features, some of which I will show you today. I will focus on the charts, the new chart types and configuration options. I will show you the new things in calendar, for example, the event preview in iOS month view, or something we call Calendar Hub, which means that we can show calendar anywhere in the application and any entity on the calendar as well. We'll take a look at new things in mobile reports like Excel support and conditional visibility. And also I will show you how to design dashboards in the application, how the responsive list, how they work, how to design them. I will show you the new action in form rules called Focus Field. And I will also talk about great new thing which enhances flexibility a lot, which is JavaScript on the views. There are quite a few things, so let's start right away with the charts. We have created 4 new chart types. The first one is area chart. This is something like a bar chart or maybe combination of a bar chart and line chart. For some types of visual representations, this is a nicer way how to represent the data. And there is also expanded area chart, which basically shows similar information but normalized or maximized to 100%, as you can see on the screenshot on the right. There is a new chart type called Gauge, which I'm quite excited about because it allows you to show goals and fulfillment of a goal. And there is a new way how to visualize a pie chart, basically a donut chart. It shows similar information, but again, in a slightly different way. So let me talk a bit about the Gauge chart and how you can visualize goals and some performance indicators using this chart. Because if you haven't tried it yet, or if you have and you weren't sure what to put there, it's important to understand how it works. So you have 4 options which you can use. The first thing which you can set there is the value. It's indicated with the red arrow on the screen, so basically it's the green part of the chart. It basically shows the current value, how much, for example, certain goal is being fulfilled. This is the only mandatory part of the chart. The rest are optional, but based on what you put in there, it might not be very meaningful, for example, without the target. The target is represented by the black part and basically shows how much of that certain goal should be fulfilled. So for example, on this picture, we would like to achieve 300,000, but we are on 55 or almost 56,000 yet. I can provide maximum as well. If I will not provide it, this will be either the target or twice the value. And I can provide the minimum as well. This is when I want to, for example, I know that my values will be more than $50,000, so I always can set the minimum to be there. I will show you a demo of this one, and hopefully this will be clear what each of these options means. There are also new chart options, so you have better control over the UI and the user experience on the charts. You can completely disable drill down, so when the user clicks on the chart and would like to drill down, you can set which fields will be there, but you can also disable this option completely. And for bar charts, you can pre-select the stacked or grouped option, and also for the pie chart, you can set label styles. In a very similar regard, we now enable users to define their own dashboards. So it doesn't have to be the administrator who defines the dashboard for all the users, but each user can define his own dashboard. And this is exactly how, for example, our sales team works. They have their own dashboards, every single one. We like to see slightly different information, so they use their own dashboards. You can create it in the application. It's basically on the setup screen. There is an item which you can click and start defining your own dashboard. It will then create a new home item called My Dashboard, where all the dashboards will be located. You just select entities, set out which elements, lists, charts, or maps you want to see, and define in which order they will be present on the dashboard. I believe that it is best to see all this in action, so let's start with the demonstration, and I will start my Alright, so I see that today I will have to work with my desktop application, which is of course no issue. So let me start with the app. Here it is. And let me show you at first some of the new charts. So as you can see, I have defined some of the charts here, like the area chart, the expanded area chart, and here I have the very same order chart shown as a pie chart and as a donuts chart. Now I will go to Woodford and define a chart which is the gauge type chart. So I will switch to the Woodford tool. Here is my project, and I will define one on the opportunity. I will create a new chart. Let's call this one gauge. And by the way, here you can see the new chart settings. So here is the bar style for the column or bar chart. Here is the label style for the pie chart, but we are interested in the gauge chart for now. So I will select that one. And here you can see the options. So here on the opportunity, what I would like to measure is how much actual revenue have we generated on the opportunities. So I will select actual revenue as the series, and I will select sum as the aggregation function. So this will show me actual revenue on all the opportunities. But now I can select target value, which can be a constant or a value from the entity, and I would like to measure this against the estimated revenue. So here I'm basically trying to visualize how much actual revenue are we doing against the estimated revenue on the opportunity. So how much we thought we will get and how much we actually got. Now for the minimal value, I can put 0 in there. And for the maximal value, I could again get it somewhere from the entity, but let's go for constant in here and provide something like 7 million as the maximum value. So this is it. I can now save and publish. And in the meantime, I can switch back to the desktop app and start the synchronization process. So let me switch to that. Okay, my app was updated. And if I go on to the opportunities and switch to charts, I see at first the default chart, but when I switch to the gauge, I can see that we estimated that we will do 3 millions circa on the opportunities. We actually made more, almost 5 million, and this would represent the 7 million as the maximum value. But at the moment, I don't have this nice chart on my dashboard, and perhaps I would like to have it. So I will define as a user my own dashboard. And for that, I will go to the setup. And here is one item called Design Dashboards. So I will click on that. And at the moment, I don't have any private dashboard. So I'll create a new one. Call this one My Sales Dashboard. All right. Once I have that, I can click on the name, or I can click here and rename or delete it. But let's click on the name and define what's on the dashboard. Here, the process is slightly different than you are used to Woodford, and that is I have to start with an entity. So I will select the first item will show accounts, and for the sake of demonstration, I will make sure that it will show just maps. Let's select map as the default display option. And I can add the opportunity, and this time I deactivate everything else besides chart. And on the charts, I will select only the gauge chart. I can add also, for example, contacts. I can just let the list view there, or I can add, again, the opportunities and let everything selected, just select the chart as the default option. I can even reorganize what I see on my private dashboard. So for example, I'll move up the contacts and I will have it like this. So now I can click Save, and as soon as I click back, you will see that now new item appeared on the home form, My Dashboards, and here all the private dashboards would be located. And if I click on My Sales Dashboard, here is what I see. So exactly what I would expect: the map, the view, gauge chart, and here I can select different charts as well. So this was the first demonstration. I will now switch back to my slides and continue with calendars. Since on the calendars there is again a lot of work which we have done. The first thing is that we updated the month view, which you can see on the screenshot actually. This is on iOS, and if I'm not mistaken also for the Windows Store application. And what you might recognize right away, that previously we've had these dots in here, just indicated which day had an appointment. This was not sufficient, so we decided that we will indicate some appointments. The first two appointments will be written right away on the month view, and then a number would indicate if there are more appointments on the day or not. So immediately much more information out of the month view on the calendar. But that's not all. The calendar component now can show any entity. So far it could show only activities, but now you can put any entity on the calendar, be it opportunities, be it cases, whatever you like and would like to have there. Moreover, we can now show more entities at once. That means that on one calendar you can see at the same time appointments, tasks, orders, whatever you have there. And even more, you can now take any view, any list within Mobile CRM. So for example, a list of associated entities on some form, and flip it to a calendar. So now you really have calendar anywhere with any entity. So as you can see here on the screenshots, for example, on the left, I have opportunities on the calendar, or on the right, you can see that really on an account form, I'm showing associated opportunities on one of the tabs in the calendar view. All of this requires actually quite a simple setup. On a view which you would like to use this way, you just have to define date fields. and here's what you select, just start and end field. Basically it can be the same field, because if we detect it's the same value, we will make it half an hour by default. Also, for the tab properties on the forms, you can now select that the records could be shown as the calendar, which I will show you actually in the demo. So I will start with the Woodford tool again. And on the Woodford tool, I will now go onto the opportunity view, and I will use this default opportunity view. I'll just define the date fields in here. So far I can't select anything because none of the views which I have here selected is a date field, but if I select estimated close date, I can now use it as the start field and as the end field. So now I will be able to use this view, this opportunity default view, on the calendars. So let's try it and set it everywhere. For example, on the calendar, I can open the existing calendar, and by clicking on Add Entity, I can select now Opportunity, and you can see that the default view has been added on the calendar. If I select the Constraints tab here on the top, here is one new option, Multi-Select View. If I check it, all the views and all the entities which I have here could be shown on the calendar at the same time. So you will see this in the application. I also want to show you how you can put such a view on a form. So I will go on to the account form, add opportunities on the form, double click that, and here in the properties, I will deactivate everything else besides calendar and also make the calendar the initial control. I'm all set, so let's publish and switch to the mobile CRM. So at first, the calendar. As you can see, here are now multiple entities already shown at the same time, appointments and service activities. Also, my default view for my orders is shown, which is basically this line at the bottom, because if I click on that, you can see it's opportunity, which is on the calendar. If I go on to the account, for example, a bike store, and on the edit form, here I have the opportunities tab, and as you can see, it's basically a calendar view. So if I go for the week, I can click on that and see the opportunities associated to this account on the calendar-like view. The next section is all about mobile reports. And if you don't know, mobile reports is basically our reporting or document generation feature. What I mean by our is that this is something that we have in Mobile CRM implemented as an offline feature, and it's not the Dynamics CRM SSRS report, it's custom Resco format, which is designed by XML or editor. It can generate a PDF, or now, which is a new thing in 9.2, Excel file, Word file, or HTML. And what's even better is now you can use conditional visibility. So you define your report, and on the report, some sections you can make visible or you can hide them. It is based on a field, and if this field contains a value, such a section will be hidden, or if it contains some data, such a section can be made visible. There is this visible property on the report, so if you click on a section you will see this property, and if you put their field name in the curly brackets or not field name, that will be used for the visibility. You cannot really put there some calculated logic or something more complex. It's for now is based on the contents of a field, but it already can add some value, as I will show you in the demonstration. So I have here in the Woodford, in my mobile reports, I have accounts contacts. It is a report that I have created in one of previous webinars. So if you haven't seen that, check one of the previous webinar recordings. And I have already provided this here, but I will remove it for now. So all the sections in here have the option to be made visible or not based on one of the fields. I have provided here contact full name because this section, this grid, is actually showing primary contact for this account. And if that contact is not provided, I don't want to show this section at all. So I will put contact full name as the visibility field, and I will save my report. Now if I go back to my project, I can do a couple of things. I can, at first I need to obviously enable that field, so primary contact is here. I will also put it on the form, so you will see if it is provided or not. And I also will enable the command run mobile report. So let's see what this will do. So for example, a bike store does not have primary contact provided. However, if I run my mobile report, accounts contacts, maybe zoom this a little, you can see that there is no section in this report which will indicate who is the primary contact. If I would do the similar thing for advanced by components, where the primary contact is selected, you will see now that the section indicated primary contact for this account is provided in here. So conditionally, I can make this section, or a grid in this case, visible or not. We have also looked at the lists in version 9.2, and here we were thinking, about this for a longer time, about utilizing bigger screens. Now phones have more screens or bigger screens, tablets have bigger screens, and our design of the view, of the look of the view, was not always prepared for that. We were more aiming for devices with small screens, which were devices of the past. So how could we utilize this better? And we have created a mechanism which offers something like a responsive design, which you might be used from HTML pages or some mobile applications. So now there are basically two ways how you can do this. There is automatic design, which creates something like you see on the screenshot. So automatically takes one template and creates this compact template, this white compact template out of that. Or you can create custom design when there is a chain of row templates which basically define in more precision what is the look. The setup is actually quite simple. For the automatic design, there is one property called AutoGrid. If I provide there, for example, 500 or any number in there, as soon as the size is more than 500, it will use the automatic created design for the view. If it's less than 500, then it will use the row template, which is defined in Woodford. If I would like to define this responsive design on my own, I have to define width of my templates, and I also have to provide this section, the white, which next template will be used in the chain. I will show you this on an example. So for example, this is the AutoGrid. If I have my AutoGrid defined at 500, if the size available for that view is less than 500, it will use my row template definition. If it's more, it will automatically create a design like this, which is compact. It will take the first cell, which has the primary style, and it will take it and make it first. and it will also make it a little bit in bold. And then all the remaining fields in the order as they are defined on the template will be next in line. So there will be the address line, postal code, a city as it's defined on the row template. If I don't want this to happen automatically, I can create a custom design. So I have 3 templates with width 240, 500, and 700. And the first one is used if it's less than 500, so the width of the next template in line. And if it's less than 500, it will use the first template. If it's more than 500 but less than 700, which is the width of the final template, then the middle template will be used. And finally, the widest template could be used. Maybe you can see it on the screenshots. There are a bunch of more fields added on the view. I will show you this in a demo so you can maybe understand this in more detail. So the first example would be the automatic design. So if I put here 500, I would mean that when the screen size is more than 500, it will create automatic design. If it's less, it will use this design for accounts view. So I will switch to the desktop app. I will synchronize. And immediately, because there is more screen size available, my view is made in the compact mode. So there is the name and the other fields in one compact line. If I click on that, and maybe I can make it a little smaller, you can see that when there is less available size, less than 500, my original design will be used. But this is automatic. I want to have more precision, and I guess you guys also want to have more precision over this because you are the CRM experts. So let's switch to Woodford and take a look at how the professionals do it. So we can remove the auto grid, and I will create another template. So I have now 2 templates in here. This one will be called wider. What I have to define is I have to extend the width. So let's put there 500. Let's extend this one as well. Let's enable additional fields like fax or website. And let's start moving them here. So for example, here I'll put the email field. Here I'll put the fax field. All right. I will create one more row. So this one is the widest. This one will be 700 pixels width, and I will also put here the main phone and the remaining is website. So far I have defined only the templates. They have different width, but so far I haven't told the application how to expand them, how to use them when there is a different screen size available. So for the first template, I will say that if there is more screen size, use the wider template. So here is where I define it. And for the wider template, I will say if there is more screen size available, use the widest. So here is how I define the chain of the templates, which to use. And here I can show them in the application. All right. So here we will see all 3 of them. So this is the smallest. If there is more screen size, immediately it will be using the wider template and more fields will appear. And if I keep extending that, you will see that even more fields will now pop up, and we are utilizing this bigger screen even more efficiently. Now I will take a look at the business logic part and show you an example how you can use the new action in form rules, which sets focus on the field. So for a specific field, you can set that it will be focused and that keyboard will open on that field. This will probably not be shown on the Windows application, but on the mobile application you would see also the keyboard. To do all that, you just have to set the focus on that field to true, and immediately that field will be selected. So I have prepared a little demonstration of that. It's a bit more complex. It's also showing some other nice features. So on the accounts, I have the status code, and I can make basically an account inactive. And before my users can do that, I would like them to provide a reason. This is a new field which I have created. So they need to provide a reason why they are making that account inactive. So I will go on to the account form. I will add my inactive reason field in here. And I also have prepared the command to change the status to inactive. But what I will do, I will make this new field invisible at first. So form inactive reason is visible, assign false, false, like this. And now, when the user tries to initialize the action to change it to inactive, I will define my custom logic. And to do that, I need to provide the name of the command, which is change status. And I also have to provide a parameter for this command, because change status is a generic command which can change to any other statuses like active or whatever. So I have to provide the number 2, which is the code for my inactive status. So if someone wants to change this account to inactive, I will check if they have provided the inactive reason. And if they didn't, I will do a couple of things. At first, I will make sure that that field is visible. Second, I will make that field focused, so the user understands that I need him to provide that. Let's focus. And finally, I will do probably something surprising, and I will set the command handled to true. What this will do, if I wouldn't provide this one last line, if the user would press this command, it will do all this. But at the same time, the hard-coded standard logic for making the account inactive would kick in, and the account would be made inactive regardless of what I have done here. If I will say that I have handled that command, that means that I'm signaling to the mobile application that I have performed the action, and the mobile application do not have to perform the standard action, which in this case is making the account inactive. So let me show you this in action, and let's hope that it will be more clear then. All right, I have here some accounts. So for example, this one I can open, and here on the top I have the option to make it inactive. So let me click on that, And immediately inactive reason is opened, but also the cursor is clicking in there, so it's prompting the user for input. This would also, on the mobile device, it would open up the keyboard so the user should start typing in. So I will provide some reason. And now if I try to make the account inactive, since I have already provided the reason, the standard logic would kick in and I can make this inactive. The final thing which I want to show you today is a very exciting new way how you can extend the views or the lists. And we have finally implemented a way how you can provide JavaScript for a view or basically put an iframe on a view. So we do it very similar way as we do with the forms. So there is a single HTML file which you need to import and which will be handling the view. And it can either provide data source, so basically define what the view will be showing, or handle the commands on the view. Please note that so far it will not work for inline lookup views, it will not work for activities, and if there is a chart which uses that view as the data source, again this will not work because on the chart we take a look at the fetch that defines that view, and therefore this will not work right away. The JavaScript can be used for two things, as I said, for loading records. And the loading records can provide completely custom data source. So if you want to show something very different, you can show that using JavaScript. But you can also extend provided data source. So you will get the actual fetch that defines that view, and you can extend it, maybe add some additional filters or change some of the properties that will be shown. You just can't change the design. That design is defined in Woodford. You can also handle all the list commands. So when someone clicks on a button in the list, you can define in JavaScript what will happen. You can even define the multi-selection command and basically in JavaScript handle what happens. Or you can capture the primary command on the view and process that as well. This probably requires a little explanation how it works. So there is a new class called list data source, and if you want to work with data on your view, you have to at first create a new instance of the list data source, and in there define method load next chunk. So basically this will define what data your view will get. Once this is defined, you can call set data source on the entity list to indicate that you are providing the data. There are two options how you can do this. The first is you can modify the fetch. So if you get the this object, there is the fetch, which you can then modify as you like. So for example, provide new filters, add additional conditions, and so on. Just don't forget that since you are now providing the data source, you need to execute that fetch. So when you have the results, so when you have the records, you can call this chunk ready and provide the entities. Also, please notice that this load next chunk is working with pages. So basically when our view is shown to the user, it requests only the first page with a bunch of records. As the user scrolls down, the view will request more records from your data source. So this way you can ensure that the response of the application and the overall user experience is very quick and fluid. The second option is to provide completely custom data. Again, you will provide the load next chunk function, but there you will construct the records on your own. Just make sure that they are dynamic entities, and once you have the array of dynamic entities which you would like your data source to provide. Then you called chunk ready with your records. Here are the important notes. As I said, the design is defined in Woodford, so you can't change it via JavaScript. It's really, the template will look as defined in Woodford. Also, the properties have to be the same. And what I mean by this is the properties which you select on a view in select fields, they are actually accessed by index in processing of the records. That means that the order matters. I assume that this is still not clear. So what I will do, I will show you what I mean by this. And I will open one of the files which actually defines a view. Here it is. This is a local file which I have there in the mobile application, in the local folder. And this is basically what defines a view in Resco Mobile CRM. And there is the fetch section. And if you notice, here are the attributes like account ID, address one city, and so on. Here they all are. And here, in this less or in more cryptic form, here is defined how such a template will look like. So for example, this is the first cell on the view. So from the first fetch, it will take the seventh, because this is indexed from 0, so seventh attribute. So seventh, so first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And as you probably would expect, the first cell on that view is name. Then it will use the third view, so the third field. So in this case, it's address line 1. And if you would be modifying this, if you would like to modify this, then this part you can't change. Therefore, if you would change which attribute it will return as the third attribute, it would be displayed, the third attribute would be displayed on the view. Hope I made this a little bit clearer. I assume that you will really get the hold of it once you will try this. So I will get back to the actual presentation, which brings me to actually to a demonstration of this. So what I will do, I will put the prepared JavaScript bridge and HTML file, which I will show you the contents of in a sec, into the offline HTML folder, and I will modify the account default view. Here is where I have to provide the HTML file. So I will browse it, and I will check this checkbox that my HTML provides the data source. If I'm just handling the buttons, if I'm just handling the commands, I don't have to check this checkbox. But because I'm actually modifying the data source, I have to check it here. And this would be it, but my, I didn't want to do it on the account, sorry for that, it's actually for the contact. It's actually for the contact, and the reason for that is that I'm showing the parent customer, or actually I'm using it for filtering. So I will put it on the form so you can see it in there. Let's do it like this. Okay. And I'm more or less done, but before I will show you this in action, let me quickly examine the contents of that HTML file. So I will put it into Visual Studio and show you. I'll make it a slightly larger. Alright, so besides the standard boilerplate, so importing the JavaScript bridge and so on, I will actually set my data source on the load of my HTML. As I said, you have to start with creating new instance of list data source, and there provide the method for loading next chunk, so next piece of your records. I will take the requested page and requested count and set it to the fetch. So from the this object, I will request the fetch. This is the fetch for the contacts, and I will set the count and page in there. Here I will do a little trick. If it's the first page, I will modify the filter. Why I'm doing this if it's the first page? This fetch is reused. If I would be adding it every time, if I would be modifying the filter every time, it would add more and more filters each time a new portion of records is requested. So I will do it only for the first page and then I'm done. What I'm actually doing here is I'm creating a new filter, making sure that parent customer ID is provided, in this case for my contacts. This is now made in a generic way, so if there are more filters already on the view, it will combine this new filter with the previous filters. As I mentioned, you have to now execute this fetch. So I execute it, make sure it returns dynamic entities. And once I have the results, the entities, I will call chunk ready with the result on this object. Don't forget to provide this object into the scope, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to use it in here. Finally, I can set all this as the data source of my view. So if I go to the application and perform synchronization, and now I will go to the contacts. Yeah, here are my contacts, here are my parent customers, and as you can see, there is no single one without the parent customer, which is basically exactly what I wanted, and I can ensure that there actually were some of the contacts which had not have provided parent customer. So this was the final demo. I can note here that this sample will be part of the webinar recording, so you will find it in the description, and also if you are just attending this webinar, you will get it via email. There are also other great features of version 9.2, like 3D touch shortcuts on iOS, or a way how you can use QR codes to log in on iOS and Android, so basically provide username, even password or URL of the server on a QR code and make sure that the synchronization or the login is actually much quicker. You can now initiate the edit document action from a list or set start hour, default duration, work location for route plans, and even set the minute value in time picker. So maybe you've noticed this, that we also always provide 5 minutes in time picker. Now you can customize it. There is much more, not only in the version 9.2, but also in the version 9.3, which I will talk about on Thursday, at the same time, at the same place, so here. And we will talk, or I will talk, about the email improvements, chat improvements, about the calculated fields on sales entities, about the publish all projects button, and some form rules again. I hope you will join me in 2 days. And now, since we reached the end of my webinar, I would like to check on some questions. I hope there are some. Let me quickly check. If you have some questions, feel free to write them into the GoToWebinar window right now. I will give you a couple of minutes to do that, or seconds. So I see there are no questions, or I can't see any. which must mean that I have been a great presenter and you understand everything really well. You also have been therefore the very good and great audience. So I hope to be in touch with you on one of the next webinars. If not on Thursday, then in one of our next releases. Thank you for your attention, and I hope it was useful for you. Oh, I see one question quickly. Okay, just thank you. So thank you again, and see you next time.